Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Welcome back, folks. Good to see you again. So this is our last in the personality type series. As a reminder, if you're listening to this on your podcast platform, know that we have a YouTube channel and you can watch this. So always happy to help. So let's get started. If you're just joining us, there are 4 different personality types. We're trying to help you understand the types so that you can adapt your own style, whether it be as a leader or as a peer, so that you can meet these colleagues in the middle or your children in the middle and get along better because you understand a little bit about how they're wired. There are 4 main personality types. I like to assign each of them an avatar and a soundbite or a mantra that helps you remember them. But they're all determined by their answers to a couple of questions. Well, actually, when you take the assessment, there's like a minimum of 78 questions. But we teach a people reading exercise that helps people read people better. And so we ask ourselves first, is this person more outgoing or are they more reserved? If they're outgoing, they're on the top half of the clock. If they're more reserved, they're on the bottom half of the clock. The second question we ask is, are they more warm and accepting, or are they more questioning and skeptical? Warm and accepting is the right hand of the clock, questioning and skeptical the left hand. So if they answered, I'm more outgoing and fast-paced is another attribute of that, and I'm questioning and skeptical, then we say you're probably the D personality type, which is dominance, and their mantra is get it done, and their avatar is LeBron James or Donald Trump. If you move to the right hand of the top half of the clock, so between 12 and 3, those people have answered, I'm outgoing and I'm warm and accepting, and we call that the influence style. Their mantra is let's get together. They love to have meetings, parties, gatherings, social connection, and Richard Branson is their avatar. If they answered, I'm warm and accepting, but I'm more reserved, we would call that the steadiness personality type, and their mantra is let's all get along, and their avatar is Oprah. And at the bottom half left hand side of the clock, which would be between 6 and 9, they answered the question, I'm more reserved, but I'm questioning and skeptical. And that answer leads us to think that they are the conscientious personality type, or the C type. And their mantra is let's get it right. And their avatar is Steve Jobs. And today we're doing the deep dive on the conscientious, or the C personality type. So as a leader, as a parent, how do you recognize if your subordinate or your child is the conscientious style? Well, some of the attributes of this personality type is they tend to be very analytical. They can take a long time making decisions. That term analysis paralysis comes from, I'm pretty sure the C's invented it. They tend to be reserved. They will observe situations. They're very precise. And they tend to be more private. They don't share personal things super readily. And they're very systematic. So when I think of like Legos, I think of like the conscientious. If that was a toy, if C were a toy, it would be Legos, I think. So these folks are often in IT, engineering, architecture, things like that, because it allows them to express those characteristics well. Lots of accountants, wealth managers, things like that tend to be in this personality type. We don't want to pigeonhole people because everyone is a mix of all 4 types, and we would never choose a profession based on your personality type, nor would we want to hire based on that. But my personal observation is those professions, or the C's in those professions, tend to thrive. So what are the values of this type? Well, it's really interesting. So I said their mantra was get it right. Accuracy. Not only being accurate themselves, but ensuring that other people are accurate. So, often they can be editors, copyright editors, formatting, things like that, where they're navigating things to make sure things are right. Like their S counterparts, they love stability. So change is not their favorite factor by any means. And they love to challenge assumptions. And I think this is a very healthy practice in all organizations. It's something that creates innovation. Often the C's are the ones that prompt us to stop doing things that are not creating added value. And so it can be very healthy, but other personality types may find it challenging. They might be like, get off my back, why are you doing this? But it's not about you. It's about the process or the activity that's happening. They're really motivated by ways to use their knowledge or gain knowledge or expertise. If you think about Dan Pink's book, Drive, there are 3 major factors that motivate people once they're adequately paid. And one of them is mastery. And I always think of the C personality type when it comes to this, because they will volunteer to do work just to get better at something. And so they really love that. And attention to quality. So ensuring that things are done properly. They tend to have pretty high standards. What are they afraid of? Well, I'm sure you could predict this. Criticism, being wrong, but also shoddy quality. So slipshod methods, if people take shortcuts, things like that. Usually this is not well viewed by the C personality type. They tend to be very precise, analytic, they're skeptical, reserved, and quiet. So often, and I say this often because it's such a distinct memory in my mind of being in these workshops with people who were quiet all day, and I have no problem volunteering my opinion. And I was thinking that they were not engaged and not paying attention until someone presented a slide, put it up there, and they went, no, that's not right. And they got pretty argumentative, but they weren't attacking the presenter, they were attacking the data. So as a leader, as a facilitator, as a trainer, when I work with C personality types, I always like to give them a heads up about, hey, we're going to be talking about these things. I'm going to be asking these 3 questions because these folks really want to do their research. They want to be well prepared. They will not volunteer an opinion just off the cuff, thinking out loud. That's not in their vocabulary. In fact, a very clear example is I was in a study group with a pastor, and someone asked a question of this ordained pastor about some situation. And I've done a fair amount of training myself. And I had my opinion, but they asked him, so I just sat and waited, and even though I think he'd written his dissertation on this topic, he was not willing to answer the question. He said, I'd really have to go back and think about that and do a little bit more research. And I'm like, you're the greatest expert on this within, 1,000 miles, but you're not willing to volunteer your opinion. So they can be a little bit like that because they don't want to be wrong. And they don't want to lead other people astray either. So super important. The other thing that shows up for this personality type is they have limitations. Every personality type does have some limitations. They're a little bit liabilities. Now, this might be an exception to you, your child, your subordinate. They may not have this themselves. They may have been trained in a profession where they basically adapted and overcame it. But generally, the conscientious style tends to be overly critical. They tend to overanalyze, and they can isolate themselves too much. And so they love to work independently. And so often you'll see organizations require, especially in coding, that they work in pairs so they can catch each other and collaborate more, because otherwise they would just sit in their own little box and code all day. And it's not really great for teamwork either. So, but they can add great value in playing devil's advocate, suggesting innovations, questioning how the use of the product is being done, looking at what's the majority of users, what do they prefer, that sort of thing. Really good at that and a really great asset to the team. So they tend to be more quiet. And so the person that will have, or the personality type that will have the greatest challenge with the C's are the I's, because they're opposites. They do not share either the outgoing or reserved, nor do they share the warm and accepting versus questioning and skeptical. So they're big personalities, lots of, I don't want to say drama in a bad way, but, excitement, enthusiasm, motivation will be overwhelming to the conscientious type. They love to have relationship and dialogue. The conscientious person is usually not very forthcoming with dialogue. They can just pretty much be yes, no, even when it's not a yes, no question. So they each need to work quite hard to be more intentional, to meet in the middle. So if you're a leader of the conscientious type, be sure to give them space when they need it. Give them a heads up so that they can prepare in situations. Definitely try to avoid anything that would suggest that they are wrong in public. In general, as a leader, I think it's bad to criticize in public. I like praise in public, criticize in private. But especially with this type, they would take it very hard. So if you're ready to work one of these workshops with your team, so that not only do you know how to manage each of the types in general, but you actually learn the exceptions for each person on your team to the boilerplate personality type, and how they can best work with each other, because likely the peers have not had this kind of training about how to work better with one another. Usually just the leaders have. Or if you think you want to apply this to your spouse or your children, we do these workshops in increments from lunch and learn all the way to full day workshops. So do give us a call and let us know how we can help your team be more productive and have more fun. So just email us at shauna@shaunacorden.com. You'll see that in the show notes below if you're listening to your podcast platform, or on the YouTube channel. You can also drop us a comment in the YouTube channel. We would love to help you out. So I hope you've enjoyed this series on the 4 personality types and what you can do to lead these folks better. By all means, reach out to us with any questions. Maybe next time what we'll do is we'll do an FAQ with all the questions that have come in from folks about what to do with these different personality types. We'd love to do that. That'd be great fun. So until next time, take good care.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at shaunacorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.